Hey guys, how you doing? There's 5 reasons to avoid or be nervous or be scared by using your credit card. Obviously, there's been quite a lot of coverage on this one. I spoke about this last time and I got some, good comments back, questions rather as well. And it's clear, there's a lot of push towards using credit. A lot of influencers, a lot of celebrities, a lot of people who somehow coach, right? Um, Claim that you should always use a credit card. And there's push towards that. Okay. But like I always say, right, be careful and always look into people's background. If someone comes to you and says, hey, I would like to build you a house, the first thing you do is actually look and see, okay, is this person a builder? Okay. Yeah, you can always tell just by looking or by going online. Okay. Same thing, someone comes around and tells you, hey, always use your credit card every time. Look around and go, wait a minute. If you've worked in real estate, that means you've never worked in a bank. If you've worked in a bank, how long did you work in a bank? Okay, how do you know? You know, do these people know about the products that they are recommending to you? And that's important because I say that because a lot of people I've noticed who try and push this idea and really have no idea themselves. They're mostly real estate guys or people who know a little bit about finance who are, maybe an accountant for a year or two, and suddenly are recommending this product to everyone. So that's my concern. Okay. Some people are good at using a credit card and you should do that, but it's not for everyone. So here are 5 reasons why. Number one is basically simple, your life choices, right? So if you, for instance, leave payday to payday, which is a lot of us, okay, and it's not an insult, it's about 80% of everyone across the world leave paycheck to paycheck, just about struggle to get those savings together. In that case, you should be careful with the credit card. Okay, these people that are talking to you, if you notice their followers, they've got about 200, 300,000 followers, a million followers. So that means they're millionaires or at least close to being millionaires already. If you're that rich, you're right. You can get a credit card and just use it that way, and you pay it off every month because you're that rich. But that doesn't mean everyone should do it. Okay, so that's something to be careful about. Your life situation, your life stage. How much do you have coming in, going out? Are you able to afford a credit card? That's one. Another point we need to look at as well is the fees. Okay. I talked about fees a lot. Okay. So if you look at a typical credit card, again, you're going to pay stamp duties. You might actually pay membership fees. People like Amex Platinum, if they give you a credit card, you're paying a lot of fees throughout the course of the year. Oh, wait a minute, the late fees as well. If you decide for some reason you want to roll it over for a year or two, you're paying fees on that. So the fees creep up a lot on you, right? Compared to just having your debit card, which is free from your bank. So that's important to notice as well that these fees are not, let's call it zero sum game, right? What that means is one person wins, the other person loses. When you're paying the fees, is going somewhere, okay, obviously to the bank. So if you look at that, that tells you already why and how banks work and why they push credit cards. Because a credit card would give them money, right? If you look at it, I've just said it as well. 60% to 80% of us, depending on what country you're in, you live paycheck to paycheck. So that means they guarantee that at least once per year or two, you're going to default or you're going to be late on your payments. That's extra fees for them. Okay. Well, what happens then? Everyone just pushes them and forgets about that. So that's important that the fees are an important component of credit cards that you usually don't get with your debit card or any prepaid rings that we have here. Again, just throw that in there. We've got prepaid rings where it just connects automatically to your bank or to your card such that you don't have to go into those debts. Again, is a debt. Okay. Speaking of debt, I'll talk about that as well. So that's another topic, which is credit card is easy to run into a debt with. Because in general, if you look at it, if they give you a credit card for, say 10,000, now you can pay it off every month. That's good. Okay. But for how long? If you're rich, you're right. You could pay it off. But most of us are not rich. So what that means, you're stuck then going into a payment plan with the bank. If you go into a payment plan with the bank, that's a debt. That means you're now paying interest, which is quite a lot. The average APR, again, annualized percentage rate would be roughly 20%, which is higher than a loan. Okay. So if you think about that's a lot of fees and income for the bank. Okay, that's important. So if you look at that, most of us go into those payment plans. So that's a treadmill of debt that we're all going into. If for some reason you want to go into that, so be careful and know that that's another point to look at. Another point which most people try and scream they should use a credit card for is for the rewards, which is true. There's a lot of good rewards on credit cards. However, Also rewards as well on debit cards these days. If you want a private concierge, our rings provide private concierge. Debit cards, your bank would provide that as well for even cheaper than the cost of the credit card, right? If you want to get priority pass or, extra lounge access, you can always pay for that. So is the credit card fees justifying that? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Okay. But it's something to think about. Okay. And I know there's always one person that have that really, really good deal with the bank in terms of rewards. That's true. However, like I repeat, it's let me call it an incentive or temptation to spend. Okay. Because again, if you have all these rewards, you know what that means? You're being forced to spend somehow. You know, you didn't want to spend before, but the rewards are there, and every time they remind you about the rewards, guess what? You're going to try and spend. Okay. So that's another interesting point as well, which people don't realize, right? When the rewards are there, people now suddenly want to spend or go on holidays because the rewards are there, not the other way around. Not because they needed it, but because it's there. So that's another point to watch out for. Be careful with when they claim that there's rewards, but there's hardly any rewards. Then lastly, then I think this came from a celebrity, which he acted in a famous movie, Frank. If anyone knows him, he acted in the Catch Me If You Can. He had a good point, which is, hey, how about, identity theft? So he was, again, the question is why you listen to him, right? Anyway, he was a criminal that was able to forge checks against banks a lot. And there's a whole movie made about him. So his idea was simple that, hey, since there's always theft, you can always use a credit card. So there, in that case, it's the bank's money, which is not, but it's the bank's money. And then if it goes missing, you can always claim it back. That's true. But that's the same as well with any other card. Sorry, things have moved on. So a fintech bank today, like we're a fintech app. Any fintech app today will give you a prepaid ring so that if there's identity theft, you're limited by the amount, right? They have even your subscription as well. If you want to subscribe to anything these days, you can have a card. I talked to read, again, watch my video on this, right, where we talked about different types of banks and different types of accounts that you need to have. If you structure your accounts well and you have a payment account, you have a savings account, you have a subscription account, you have a pay yourself first account. If you have all these accounts, where's the identity theft going to come from? Because if for some reason someone comes in and actually steals that card, you know what card it is, number one. Number two, most cards are set up as a one-time use. So that would mean once you've used it once, it's gone. So no one's stealing anything from anyone these days, right? There's always a way back, from those things. That's the point I'm trying to make there. So in terms of identity theft, that's true. Using a credit card gives you that allowance where you can always dispute those transactions. And but so is any other debit card these days. You can always dispute any transaction and you can protect yourself online. Okay, again, we're not selling anything here in terms of suggestions. We have our fintech app here, so we have no deals here. But what you need to understand is that if you really, really want to use it, then you shouldn't worry about identity theft that much because there are ways around it. And I'll give one bonus one as well, which is basically building credit score. That's true. So a lot of people, I think, credit cards, they argue that you should use a credit card to build your credit history. That's true. But on the other hand, as well, you have to understand it's a double-edged sword. So that would mean if you're late for those fees, it affects your credit score. So something you wanted to use to build a credit, used it for 3 to 4 years, and you were late once or twice. It's negated all the benefits. That's something to watch out for. Same thing as well, if for some reason you just use a credit card and use just a credit card, then you're not really building a credit score. Okay, unless you really want to go for a mortgage, you want to go for an investment product, you want to go to get a loan in future, then that's where using credit card makes sense because it's a step to better products from the bank. Okay, and that's why, again, I repeat, you have to think about yourself here. If you just get a credit card only, you're just paying the bank because the bank hopes and waits that at some point you're going to miss your payments. Okay, so that's careful. I mean, guys, so just to summarize, right, be careful with your credit card. While it's a good tool, it's not for everyone. And people are very different. Okay, so always watch out for people who run around and tell you to use your credit card at all costs and don't use a debit card. You look at those people's profile and you see number one, possibly haven't worked in banking as long as they should, or number two, and they're selling you a product because they're part of a deal or they will get a discount or affiliate sponsorship there, or number three, they haven't looked at your profile. So we're not giving advice as well. I'm not telling you not to go for a credit card. All I'm saying is, guys, look at your situation, look at your financial discipline, and if for some reason you believe that it's going to be a problem, then don't. or go for a very limited amount. If anything, I would suggest use it as a charge card. The charge card makes you spend exactly all you need and no more. Okay, so exactly if you're using it for transport, use it for transport only. Pay that back at the end of the month. And guess who loses there? The bank, because the bank would actually hope and pray that you default or you get some fees, but you don't get any fees because you pay everything back. But I repeat, that is incredibly hard for most people. Okay, and that's the truth. So be careful with the credit card. Don't follow blindly. Okay, thank you, and have a nice afternoon. Back to work.